Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Superboy Legacy, and today we are going to be doing another commentary for you. I'm your host Tom Gallagher with my co-host Chris Jacobsen, and this is a requested commentary today. The Blur commented on our commentary for the episode West of Alpha Centauri and requested 2 episodes, and we're doing the first one for you now and possibly do the second one next week, although we may throw in another one of our Metallo Spotlight episodes in the middle, just to separate them a little bit. But The Test of Time. One of my favourite episodes, this one. I've always loved it. It's a low budget show. The time freezing effects are mostly just accomplished by having extras stand as still as possible, although a couple of them are a little bit wobbly here and there, which is always fun to see. But some of it is done really well. Like I really like the shot of the helicopter with the blades spinning slowly in the air. So
and of course it's written by David Gerrold, a fantastic TV writer. Wrote one of the greatest episodes of Star Trek: The Original Series ever, The Trouble with Tribbles.
Yeah. Brilliant episode. Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Trouble with Tribbles, because I saw someone suggest something the other day where they were like, if they were to do another anniversary special episode, maybe they could do Lower Decks, have their own kind of Trials and Tribulations type episode, but maybe instead of going back to the Trouble with Tribbles, they could go back to the Tribble episode of the original animated series and get really confused as to why the Tribbles are pink. Like, I think it would be a really fun episode if they were to do that. I know we're getting a little bit off topic, but David Gerrold is somewhat relevant. But let's just get into the commentary, guys. Now, if you haven't seen any of our commentaries before, just so you know, this is not a typical reaction video on YouTube. This is more like when they release the full uncut reactions on Patreon. You'll just need to get your own copy of the episode, sync it up with us. We'll count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play. And if you hit play at the same time as us, we'll be watching it alongside you. So get ready, and 3, 2, 1, play. So, David Gerrold, did he write any more episodes of Superboy?
This is the only one, although when they, during the New 52 era of DC Comics, they were doing that anthology book, The Adventures of Superman.
Yeah, I love that. I've got all 3 volumes.
And this kind of goes. There was some fan backlash because Orson Scott Card had written a story for it,
right?
And people were getting up in arms because of his stance on gay marriage and such.
I'm not familiar enough with the guy to. Yeah, I would never even known that was a thing. But
and David Gerrold, said, you know what, release the story and then just have somebody who is pro gay marriage do their own story in the same book.
Yeah, makes sense.
And David Gerrold had actually written something, but they never released that either.
Damn. It's a shame because, he's clearly a talented writer. I would have liked to have seen more Superboy episodes from him at the very least.
Yep.
I do think it's fun that one of the main writers on Superman during the New 52, Scott Lobdell, started off writing for the tie-in comic for Superboy. So that's always fun to see that name pop up in 2 completely eras of comics that could not be more dissimilar. It's always cool to see the same names popping up.
That scene with the snake.
I do like that scene.
I have a sneaking suspicion that maybe David Gerrold rewatched Temple of Doom at right when he wrote this.
Does remind me of of something I read online. It was just some fans saying, "Oh, I've got a theory about Superman and Kryptonians that I've not seen online anywhere, and it's based on Superman 2, and it's all based on basically here's the theory: Kryptonians actually have a third weakness that we don't know about, which is snakes, because a snake bites Ursa on the hand and she appears to feel pain. So apparently snakes are another weakness of Kryptonians."
Yeah, except no.
I know it's a joke, but you know.
Yeah.
I think it's quite funny because she was surprised to get bitten. I don't think she was actually hurt, but I do like when fan theories purposely come up with something absurd just because it's so absurd it can't possibly be true. So yeah, they're here looking forward. They call it a will-o-wisp. Is that what they refer to it as?
Yeah, will-o'-the-wisp.
Will of the Wisp. It's obviously based on an actual legend.
Yeah, I'm not
those
too
things
familiar
actually
with
exist.
it,
I'm not either, but I've heard of them in other places. So I do love that shot of Stacy just sort of hovering in midair, especially since I've got a bunch of behind the scenes photos that I've been sent, and they basically set her up on like a kind of chair thing, and she was just kind of stuck there for a while while they were filming. There's a whole bunch of photos of her in that position, just laughing her head off.
Yeah, you can kind of see she's holding herself, but it's not working 100%.
Mm. She's doing a very good job, really. Because, I mean, everyone wobbles a little bit, but yeah. See, I just think this is wonderfully directed. Like how quiet the town is because there's nothing making sound apart from him. It's just there's something really eerie about this, despite the fact that it's like beautiful sunshine, just a really nice, clean town. But even before that music just kicked in there, like this is creepy. There's something really unsettling about it.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing that you would see on the Twilight Zone.
Hmm. And it makes sense that someone that wrote for Star Trek wrote this episode, because especially the conclusion at the end, obviously we'll get to it when we get to it, but the way he defeats the aliens is such a Star Trek thing to do.
Yeah, you can see the fat guy. He can't really.
He's the one that wobbles the absolute most, I think, in this episode. I do really like, though, that they've got those sort of what are they, wire pipe cleaners or something? They've got that on the front of the fans so that they don't actually droop. It just looks like they're being blown out. It's a clever use of a prop. But I like how creative they are in showing the time stop. Like you've got like the bubble being burst, you've got the guy on the motorbike in a moment, and yeah, I like it. I've always liked that shot as well, because obviously when you actually look at a digital watch, it's instant when the numbers change. But the fact they actually showed it slowly changing from one number to the next.
Yeah.
Just little details like that I appreciate. There's a movie directed by Jonathan Frakes called Clock Stoppers that deals with time stops, and he's got some moments very much like this that I think he did very well, and it's a shame that movie didn't make more money because it never got a sequel.
And now he starts to realize what's going on.
Mm. So I wonder what they did to the American flag that was behind him there, because even that wasn't moving. I assume that a lot of this stuff was, new new props, stuff I actually had to make for the scene.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen that guy on the bike before. Maybe from another episode of Superboy. Who knows?
Possibly.
They did have a tendency to, reuse actors, so... Did see a funny comment though about when he puts the helmet on the guy. He's just technically Superboy's moving so fast he probably just broke every bone in the guy's skull.
Yeah.
At the very least, he broke his nose when he slipped it over there. Probably. I know it's silly. I like when people nitpick stuff like that just for humour.
Well, don't we do that all the time, Tom?
We do. It's funny because I don't even think he necessarily needed all that dialogue earlier explaining that he's been sped up and all of that. I think seeing the helicopter, a lot of people would have got it. And especially by this point, I think. The fact that the phone's ringing, the fireplace is going and all of that, I think you could... I think the audience would have been able to piece together what's going on by a certain point. I've got to say, when those bricks cover up the door and the window a moment ago...
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very simple effect, but I think it's actually quite... I think that works for that scene quite well, because it's something almost dreamlike about how the frame rate of those bricks isn't quite right as they get formed. I don't know. It's like in Terminator 1 when you see the full robot skeleton going, like, trying to chase Sarah Connor after all the flesh has been burnt away. Because it's stop motion, it makes it actually, if anything, slightly creepier. I'll say this for Superboy, though. On the budget they had some damn good explosions over the course of this show. They never skimped on the pyrotechnics.
All right, that guy you could tell was wobbling a little bit.
Yeah. You know, it's stuff like, I'm sure if we looked behind Clark as well, there's probably the trees are probably blowing in the breeze as well. Like, there's probably a whole bunch of things moving that shouldn't be.
Yep.
I do think it's funny that they're just hanging out in a barn, though, considering they could just take up residence anywhere they wanted, really.
And the guy who just got down, he's actually been in a previous episode of Superboy.
Did he have slick back hair and sunglasses in that episode?
No, he was actually in the episode Programmed for Death. He was the police officer.
Right. It's been a long time since I've seen that one, so maybe that's one we'll have to watch again some point soon. We'll add that to the list. Yeah, he's wobbling a bit. It almost looked like he just wobbled to get out of the way of the cube just then. But it's fine. I've always liked time stop stories just because I think it's something you can do on a lower budget and still do reasonably well. And this is one of the better time stop episodes I've seen of any show. I love this character. I don't know if I've seen this actor in anything else, but I think he does a wonderful job in just with the small part that he's got in this episode. I think he does just a really good job.
Yeah.
Especially in the church in a minute. Yeah, this scene.
You know, listening to the way he's talking, and we'll find out in a few moments, you know, that he's not what he appears to be.
Mm.
You kind of feel, you kind of believe him as a widower.
Mm. See, and part of me makes me wonder, like, you know, did they base the robot on an actual person to replace him or something? Download some of the guy's memories into the robot or something so it's more convincing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe the aliens are just very good at programming robots to convince people, you know, that they're friendly. Because he just gave a really nice little performance in that scene just there, and now he just, yeah.
That, you know, for a low budget show, that was a pretty good effect.
Mm. There's been a few good uses of X-ray vision in this episode. Earlier on, when the two trucks were driving at him simultaneously, and he used it to look through the front windscreen. Nice little moment. I always love when people get blown up in old films, because just the way the dummy's arms always flap about in the exact same way. It just always makes me laugh.
You know, I'd love to, you know, get David Gerald down for an interview and, you know, talk to him about this episode.
Definitely. I wonder if he's on Twitter.
Probably is. I don't know, that facial expression that guy was just using when he was in you know. It just looked a little too.
Didn't quite work.
Yeah.
I imagine, you know, a show with a higher budget probably would have done another take, but yeah. I imagine it was kind of a 2 takes maximum kind of deal with Superboy.
Maybe 3 if they had to.
Yeah, I mean, they shot it on film, so probably to save money, so it's probably like 2 takes maximum, you know. If we have to do 3, you're getting a line cut somewhere else or something like that. Who knows? But it will certainly explain things like, you know, like the episode Micro Boy. Like maybe they used up too much money, so they had to cut a scene or something.
Mm. You know, I'm surprised that the aliens didn't say something like, "Why did you change your clothes?" to him.
Yeah, they didn't even bother to ask. Obviously, they took notice of it earlier. They said, "I wonder why he changed his clothes," but they never asked him. This is such a good scene. I love the way he tricks them.
Yeah, and the confusion mixed with anger that's on Stacy's face.
Thing is, I am sure that Lana is intelligent enough that she could work out what was really going on. I mean, she's scared, I get it, but I'm sure given a few more minutes she would have worked out what he was doing.
Maybe, maybe not.
Because, you know.
Because sometimes Lana was pretty smart, and other times she was as dumb as a post.
Yeah, I guess it was inconsistent writing in terms of her character. I always choose to think of her as the smart version of Lana, because I just think Stacy played that stuff better.
Yeah.
I get that she's hurt here, but I think she would have worked out that's what he was doing if he didn't explain.
Excuse me.
I love this scene.
You know, the episode, you know, barring the whole you know, speeding, you know, slowing down time for him or speeding it up. It reminds me a lot of one of the animated episodes that Filmation did in the 60s, Operation Counter Invasion, where he basically made aliens think that, you know, everybody was superpowered.
I wonder if David Garrett was inspired by that in some way.
Well, that's another question we'd have to ask him. You know, where did this episode come from?
I mean, the idea of stopping time is quite a popular trope in sci-fi media. I mean, I've seen it in so many things, but not as often as, you know, time loop episodes. They're a lot more common, especially now.
Yeah,
or just basic time travel. But time freezing seems to be something that used to see a lot more often, and I can't remember the last time I saw a time stop episode outside of, you know, like when the Flash is running so fast that everything else slows down. It's about the only time you really see it these days.
Yeah, and not so much anymore now that the Flash is over.
There was a time where a lot of filmmakers were doing it, and it was because of you know, X-Men Days of Future Past, when they have the whole Quicksilver scene.
Yeah.
Suddenly every studio was doing that. I mean, obviously films had done it before, but because that scene was so popular, I mean, you know that was the inspiration behind why Zack Snyder did the Flash slow down scene in his version of Justice League with the hot dogs and the car crash. But anyway, Test of Time. One of my all-time favourite episodes. This is one that I must have gone back and watched 12 to 15 times easy.
A shame we never got to see these aliens or their race again.
Yeah, we never saw them again. It is a shame. Did they get blown up at the end in the barn thing? I thought that was
they did get blown up, dead. But you know that doesn't mean that other members of their race couldn't show up later.
True. And it's funny. especially with sci-fi and stuff like this, the fact that these guys are able to just stop time like that, or at the very least effectively stop time by speeding up other people, they must be capable of a lot of other technology. Like maybe they beamed out of their really great episode, one of my all-time favourites. Thank you, by the way, to the Blur on YouTube for suggesting this episode. It's funny, I don't know why it's taken us this long to actually do this one. I think it's a case of similar to A Day in the Double Life, where it's possible we did a commentary once before and for whatever reason maybe the recording was lost or something. I honestly don't remember, but I do know that I'd already made a thumbnail image for this one, so clearly at some point it was on the list and then it was kind of just forgotten about. But A Day in the Double Life will be coming soon. Like I said at the beginning, probably we'll put the next Metallo Spotlight thing between, but that'll be coming soon. So thank you to the Blur for that suggestion, and if any of you at home have suggestions for episodes you'd like to see us cover with commentaries, it doesn't have to be one of the best episodes. You can request that we watch your least favourite episodes if you like. We usually still have fun even with the bad ones, because there's usually something to laugh at in there, and often, you know, even in the bad episodes there'll be plenty to laugh at, but often we'll find like a nugget of something gold in there.
You know, I think maybe what we should do, next, after, A Day in the Double Life, we should do the horror related episodes, or the ones that have, horror elements to them. Like, for example, the Dracula episodes, young Dracula.
Werewolf would be a good one for that.
The Golem.
The Golem would be a good one, and that's an interesting episode because I know that's an adaptation of a comic. That story. That's literally, that story is a direct adaptation, and I know there's an actor. Is it Brian
Thompson?
Williams?
Brian Thompson.
Brian Thompson. Who's Brian Williams? Is he a sportscaster or something? Is he like a anchor on a news show? I don't know. I don't know where Brian Williams came from. I'm glad I didn't say Brian.
Yeah, he is or at least he was a news anchor. He got removed from NBC a while ago for some outlandish claims he was making.
Right. Yeah, I never watched him. I'm not a sports guy, or obviously not being in America, I don't watch American news. I just, for some reason, I knew the name Brian Williams, and I was trying to place who it was. But yeah, Brian Thompson, like, that guy has been in a bunch of episodes of Buffy, but he's also just kind of a legend. Like this, I know that there's a section of his fandom that is just as obsessed with his work as we are with this show.
Yep.
And it's always great. There is a video I saw on YouTube a little while ago where someone did a reaction to that episode purely because they're a huge Brian Thompson fan. And they enjoyed it. They thought it was a bit strange that Superboy was actually defending Nazis against the Golem, but it's obviously just a misunderstanding in the episode. He doesn't have the full picture at that point, so yeah. Plus, Superboy is always of the way he would rather them not die. He'd rather see them in prison. But that's just about his no killing rule.
Yeah, I still love that one scene when they're reading from Mein Kampf and he says, "Amazing," and they said, "Oh, you've read Mein Kampf?" And he says, "No, I'm saying it's amazing that you can actually read."
Yeah. That's a fun episode. It's another one I've not seen in a very long time, so yeah, we'll do the Golem. It might be worth holding off on doing the horror themed thing, and we could maybe do 4 horror themed podcasts in a row and make that the month of October. Do it for Halloween.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because we've got the 2 Dracula episodes, we've got Werewolf, and then
we've already done Jackson and Hyde, which could have been a fun one for that, but there's other horror-ish episodes. I mean, Mindscape, if we hadn't already done Mindscape, that would have been a good one, because it's all about nightmares. It's a very it's playing on Superboy's fears, which is always nice.
Special effects is good for that.
Special effects is great for that. Although I would say special effects is a lot more of a humorous episode, just purely for the fact that Andy's there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a funny character, and Ilan played that character perfectly. You know, I may not be a huge fan of the character, but he did exactly what they wanted him to do, and you can't fault his performance.
Yeah, and
you can dislike the character, but you can't deny that Ilan Mitchell-Smith did a fantastic job in playing him.
And especially in special effects, he was so good, because he was playing there's almost like two Andys that you see in throughout the show. There's sleazy Andy, and then there's, best friend Andy. And he was playing best friend Andy.
Yeah. And it also helps. I think there's also another two sides to Andy's personality, just in the fact that there's the public persona where he's like this confident businessman. He's rising to the top. He's going to be the best of the best of the best. All of this stuff. Like, he's so confident. But it is obvious in some scenes that it is bravado. It's a put on. He's not actually as confident as he portrays himself to be. Because
and we get
in episodes like Special Effects, he's not where he wants to be.
Yeah, and of course you get an idea of the inner Andy, where all that bravado is coming from watching Programmed for Death, because you find out what his backstory was. So,
yeah. And then, like I say, I think we both prefer TJ, and we would have rather TJ stuck around, but Andy is good too. So I think maybe The Haunting of Andy McAllister would be an interesting one as well. It's vaguely horror related.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's really scary, but it's close enough, I think. So maybe that could be one.
Yeah.
Special effects, Haunting of Andy McAllister. Maybe just the first Young Dracula episode. I don't know if we necessarily need to do both, because we could always save the next one for the following year or something.
Yeah.
But either way, if you have any suggestions for what your favourite horror-ish themed episode is, let us know. Because there are a bunch of vaguely horror-themed episodes. It was never the most, it wasn't the most regular type of episode on the show, but it's common enough that I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about. So yeah,
the layer is pretty good as far as that. Because you've got Michael Carter, who's turned into a monster, and it's nuclear radiation.
Yeah, which that it builds on a lot of people's very justified fears of nuclear stuff.
Yeah.
Especially at that time. Just look at movies like RoboCop, like a few years before. Was that 82 or 83, something like that, RoboCop?
RoboCop, that was 87.
87, so yeah, it was only a couple of years before. And let's face it, the toxic waste, turning that guy into a mutant at the end of the first RoboCop, is still one of the absolute best scenes. People always talk about when, I forget the name of the robot, Ed 209 or something?
Yeah.
Something like that, and when it shoots that guy to death in the office, people talk about scenes like that as being one of the most brutal things in the film. But I don't know. I'm always so much more creeped out by the look of that guy after the toxic waste gets splashed on him.
Leon, who
all his face
does appear in Superboy.
Does he really? Which episode was that one we did recently?
No, season 4.
Right.
It's the. I forget the name. It's one of the two-parters, but it's the one where Bizarro becomes Bill Zorro.
Oh, To Be Human, right?
Yeah.
He's
Chaos.
He's Chaos. Of course he is. Yeah, of course he is. And he's got a fucked up face in that.
Paul McCrane. Paul McCrane. That's the name of the actor.
He's got a messed up face in that too. But that scene at the end of RoboCop, and then he gets hit by a van, and instead of like just getting hit by like a normal body, he just explodes.
He falls apart.
He literally explodes into liquid. It's so gross and disgusting, and I kind of love it. There's something about 80s horror makeup effects that I think just hold up to this day.
I remember seeing RoboCop in the theaters. My sister Eileen took me and my two half brothers, Joe and Rich, to see it. And Rich was like almost 7 years old. So he's a little young for RoboCop, and the whole sequence with Leon turning into the monster and then getting hit freaked him out.
Right? It's by far the scariest thing in that movie. Because, it's just awesome. And the makeup effects, the way that his face looks like it's actually melting on screen, like it looks like it's actually oozing and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
and then
just so well put together.
And then just Ray Wise's character when Leon comes up to him and says, "Help me," and he's like, "Get off me!"
Oh, that's another actor that I love, Ray Wise. We'll have to find something for him in season 5. Yeah. Maybe he can be like, I don't know, one of the demonic characters, because he always plays a good villain.
Yeah, but he also plays such good guys too. He doesn't get the chance to play good guys.
True. I did like him in the episode of Psych episodes rather of Psych, because he did one episode. They liked him so much they just kept bringing him back. But he's so good at that. He plays a priest in it who was like their former, like when they were kids. He was their priest that they saw in church every Sunday, and he was really good. And they even brought him, like, he's the one actor that they couldn't bring in specifically for the Twin Peaks episode that they did.
Yeah,
they brought in the whole cast, pretty much the whole cast of Twin Peaks, and then they had to find a way to bring him in, but they brought him back as his former.
Did they bring in Kyle MacLachlan?
Actually, he's probably one of the only ones they couldn't get. They've got pretty much everyone else, just not him. But it's a brilliant episode called Jewel Spires. It's it's Jewel Spires, Twin Peaks. I appreciate wordplay like that. But they go there for a cinnamon festival or something, and there's just it's great. It's really, really good. But
yeah, we definitely got.
Psych is just a great show. I know I've mentioned Psych a whole bunch. Maybe we should do a side podcast just about Psych at some point. But
it's been so long since I watched it.
Maybe it'd have to be a watch along podcast or something.
Although the one thing that I absolutely love is that episode when his father starts dating again, and the actress they have as his date is Amanda Pays, who is actually Corbin Burnson's wife.
Yeah, and she's like,
really,
he thinks she's like a button up. Yeah, but like it starts though, he thinks she's like a librarian type, very button up, very pris and proper, and all of that stuff. And it's like, she turns out at dinner, actually, no, she's kind of a freak. And I mean, I think we could all be so lucky as to be set up on a date like that.
Well, you know something, Tom? She's probably
especially with her, because she's gorgeous. Huh?
She's probably a Catholic schoolgirl.
Maybe.
Trust me, I can tell you that from personal experience. I went to Catholic school.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a Church of England school, but I don't think we really have Catholic schoolgirls in uniforms like in America. I think that's very much an American Catholic thing. I don't know if that really transfers to other countries.
Yeah.
I think maybe, I've certainly never actually seen a Catholic schoolgirl in an outfit like that, that's for sure. But no, I went to a Church of England school for my first, until I was like 11, and nothing makes you an atheist faster than having an assembly that you have to attend 3 days a week, where you just had, all it is an hour of the local priest reading from the Bible. And it's just like,
we definitely got to find a place for Ray Wise in season 5 and 6.
Yeah. He was good as the devil in Reaper, if you ever saw that. That was a good show. Kevin Smith directed the pilot, and it was the son of the devil is going hunting down escaped souls from hell and sending them back. And just a really, really funny show. He works. Sorry?
It sounds like they were ripping off the premise of the Fox TV show Brimstone.
Maybe. Who knows?
Which had John Glover as the devil.
No, I never saw that one. But, I mean, it was a good show, Reaper.
I think Stacey was in an episode.
Oh, wow. Maybe I'll have to check that out then, just the episode with Stacey, just to see how it is. But, it was a good show, Reaper. It was very much a Kevin Smith style comedy, but with, action, sci-fi-ish, mythological elements. And he would always give him like a unique tool that he would be used to send that villain back to hell. And there was some really cool stuff in it. Like when he actually captures one of the escaped souls into these devices, the place he has to go to file it so it can be sent back to hell is the DMV. So he literally, every time he captures a soul, he has to queue at the DMV and hand over the escaped soul to the woman behind the counter. It's just, yeah, the DMV is the portal to hell, basically, in that universe.
Isn't that the way it is normally?
Pretty much, yeah, which is why it was perfect. No, really, really good show, and Ray Wise as the devil was just absolutely phenomenal. He was fantastic in that, so... But he played it sort of half and half. He wasn't quite a villain as well. He was, he did some horrible things, but he was also kind of like the show Lucifer, I guess,
So basically he was playing it like, he's a civil servant.
Kind of, yeah. It's like Lucifer and Reaper both have a similar idea with the devil, which is like, if the devil's so bad, why is he punishing evildoers in hell? Like, wouldn't he just like throw them a party and give them the best time ever? Like, be like, you did so well on Earth, you did so much bad shit, let's have a party. Like the devil, if the devil was as evil as people make out, that's probably what he'd do. But it's like, well, no, the devil's doing a job. He's punishing the evildoers, and it's an interesting way to look at it. It's all just fun. I don't think anyone takes it at all seriously, but I just think it's a fun little way to look at it. He was given a job to do. He doesn't even like doing the job particularly, but he knows it's got to get done.
Yeah.
But, Lucifer was a good show though. That Tom Ellis did such a good job playing that role. It's a shame he wasn't acting a little bit sooner, because I'd love to find something for him, but he'd probably be about 6.
Yeah.
Unless we have a flashback to like a young Jason Todd or something years before he'd even become Robin, and we just have 6-year-old Tom Ellis in there somewhere. It's like, no, he didn't even start acting for another 15 years or something. But it's always fun. Yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. Goodbye.